بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Our topic today is a continuation from the previous lesson where we were speaking about the topic of specifying a person as being in paradise or in hellfire. And we got through half of that discussion, more or less. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we want to conclude that discussion. And in the last lesson, we looked at the statement of Imam al-Tahawi, وَلَا نُنَزِّلْ أَحَدًا مِّنْهُمْ جَنَّةً وَلَا نَارًا, that we do not specify anyone amongst them, meaning here the people of the Qibla, to be in paradise or in hellfire. وَلَا نَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِكُفْرٍ وَلَا بِشِرْكٍ وَلَا بِنِفَاقٍ مَا لَمْ يَظْهَرْ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٌ مِّن ذَلِكَ. And nor do we testify for anyone with kufr or shirk or nifaq, hypocrisy, so long as no signs of that become apparent from them. وَنَظَرُ سَرَائِرَهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. And then we leave their inner secrets, we leave them to Allah the Most High. So in the last lesson we looked at some commentary from Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala and Shaykh Saalih al-Fawzaan, and today we want to elaborate in a bit more detail upon this. So here at-Tahawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he states here that when it comes to the matters of the unseen, because paradise and hellfire for people is a matter of the unseen, it's from the ilm al-ghayb. And so in this topic, Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they only follow that which the Quran and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah have pointed to, because it's from the ghayb, it's from the unseen. We can't know this unless and until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us of that, or the Messenger informs us of that. And so this follows therefore the general principles that we see in the Quran regarding ilmul ghayb, knowledge of the ghayb. And so from those verses which relate to this is the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the faculties of hearing and seeing, and the feelings of the heart, the senses, all of that will be inquired into. All of that will be inquired into. Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17, verse 36. And likewise the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَن تُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Speaking here about the things which are prohibited, that you associate partners with Allah in that in which He gave no authority, and that you say about Allah that which you have no knowledge of. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made haram, He made it unlawful for a person to speak without any knowledge. So therefore, when we say that so-and-so is in paradise, so-and-so is in hellfire, so-and-so, what we are really saying is that Allah will not forgive so-and-so. If we say that he's in the fire, we are basically making the claim that Allah will not forgive so-and-so. Or we are saying that Allah has forgiven so-and-so when we make a claim that someone is in paradise. And these types of things are, again, this relates to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, relates to His mercy, relates to His will. And these, we cannot pass judgment on these types of affairs because it is from the knowledge which is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in light of this is a firmly established principle with Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, that we do not specify any person to be in paradise or in hellfire because it is from the affairs of the unseen. And this is because the people of the Qibla the people of the Qibla, those who are Muslims, then sometimes they could be punished, sometimes they can be forgiven. Allah punishes whomever He wills, rewards whomever He wills, forgives whomever He wills, shows mercy to whomever He wills. All of this is in the ilm of Allah, and we do not know that until Allah informs us Himself. So therefore, Ahlul Sunnah, what they do is they make ittiba of the nas, of the text. We follow the text. And this is just a general commentary upon this passage. This is just a general observation, general commentary. And in this, we differ from the sects which have gone astray, from the Khawarij and the Mu'tazila and others who deviate in this field, and they oppose the qawaid, the principles of Ahlul Sunnah. So this is just a general observation about the statement. Now we go into some of the masail, some of the specific issues. So the first issue is, what we gather from the statement of Imam al-Tahawi, is that his speech is in the context of the people of the Qibla. People of the Qibla. He said, وَلَا نُنَزِّلْ أَحَدًا مِنْهُمْ. أَحَدًا مِنْهُمْ. That we do not place any one of them. And in the context of this speech, previously we were speaking about the Ahlul Qibla, the people of the Qibla. So here, when he says what he says, that we don't specify anyone to be in paradise or hellfire, he's speaking here about the people of the Qibla. Because the people of the Qibla, apparently we see from them Islam, and we know that in the Quran and the Sunnah, Allah has promised a Muslim paradise, and He has threatened the one who disobeys from the people of Islam to be in the fire. So this speech here is about the people of the Qibla. It is specifically about the people of the Qibla. So whoever dies from the people of the Qibla, we don't say he's in the fire, nor do we say that he is in paradise, until and unless the Messenger specifically has stated so. Now here the Shaykh begins to discuss an issue about the people of disbelief, the kuffar. Does this apply to the kuffar? And this is something that was raised in the previous lesson in the question at the end. And what we find is that amongst the ulama, amongst the scholars, there is a difference of opinion. We find some of the scholars, like Shaykh Ibn Baz, Shaykh Saalih al-Fawzaan, and likewise Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, and many others, they say that this actually is general for everybody, Muslim or non-Muslim. This is a general ruling that we do not say about any specific person who dies from the Muslimin or the kuffar that he is in paradise or in hellfire. And there are other views. There are other views which are held by some of the other scholars, which is the view expressed here. Likewise, some of the other ulama hold this view as well. And they say that a person who is a kafir, a Nasrani, a Yahudi, a mushrik, an idol worshipper, then anyone who dies upon that and it is witnessed from him that he dies upon that, then it can be judged and testified that this person is a person of the hellfire, because he died upon kufr. He died upon kufr. And the evidence which is used, and we find that this is found in some of the speech of Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah as well, the hadith in which the Messenger said that whenever you pass by the grave of a kafir, فَبَشِّرْهُ بِالنَّارِ, give him glad tidings of the fire. Give him glad tidings of the fire. And so this hadith is used as a basis for that view. And then the Shaykh says here that in general we see the principle that a Muslim in general, he's promised with paradise. And that's the general asl that we work upon. And a kafir, the general asl, the general principle is that he is in the fire. And that's the general principle that we work upon. And so on that basis, when we see, and this is what some of the ulama, they explain, that when we know a person to be a kafir, and at the point of death he dies upon his kufr, and we witness that he has died upon his kufr, then it can be testified that this person is in the hellfire. So that's another view. As I said, this is an issue which is differed upon amongst the ulama, and there are a number of different considerations. Sometimes when you learn of a kafir, he's died, and you're not present, there are many scenarios and situations that can be there. Maybe the hujjah has not been established upon him. Maybe Allahu alim, the shubha and the the hujjah hasn't come to him in a way that would be established upon him. There are a number of things, scenarios, which would prevent a person from making an absolute judgment that he is definitely and most certainly from the people of the fire. And that's why you see amongst the ulama who are those who take this stance, like Ibn Uthaymeen, Fawzaan, Ibn Baz, and they said this is general, we apply this to everybody, Muslim or non-Muslim, who dies. Anyway, that's the first issue. The second issue is that why do we hold this position? What is the basis for us holding this position? It is because we venerate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes, the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we don't delve and start disputing into the matters of the unseen. And there are a number of different viewpoints. There are 2 or 3 different viewpoints that the scholars have held when they implement this principle about how do we speak about the people who die. There are 3 broad positions. The first position is those who say that we will not speak about any person at all, absolutely, whether he's in paradise or in hellfire. Rather, all we will say is that we will speak in generalities. We will speak in terms of groups and categories. So, for example, we will say that the believer is in paradise. And notice this is just a general statement. It's speaking about a group, a type, the believers. The believers are in paradise. And likewise, the zalim, the one who is an oppressor, he is in hellfire. And likewise, the mu'min, the upright mu'min, he's in paradise. And likewise, the murtakibul kabira, the one who commits a major sin, he is in the hellfire. And likewise the mushrik is in the hellfire. And likewise the Yahudi and the Nasrani, he's in the fire. These are all, you can see these are all general statements. You are passing judgment upon the group as a whole rather than any specific individual. So this group, they say that we will only speak in generalities and we will not pass judgment upon any specific individual whatsoever. Right? So this is the first position. Second position is the position of the majority of the people of hadith, people of the sunnah, people of the athar. And they say that because this is an issue of the unseen, that it has to be based around the Quran and the sunnah. And so therefore we will not say about anyone, that is in paradise or hellfire until and unless there is an evidence from the Quran and the sunnah. And we apply this both to groups, general groups, like for example, believers, sinners, Jews, Christians, mushriks. So we apply this in the general sense. And likewise, we also apply it to specific individuals where there is an evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. As I said, this is the view of the majority of the people of the Hadith and Sunnah. So therefore, they will say, Al-Yahud, they are in the fire, and Nasara are in the fire, the Mushrikun are in the fire. In general sense, the major sinner will be in the fire. And they will say, Abu Lahab is in the fire. They will mention specific names. Abu Lahab is in the fire, and everyone whom has been specifically mentioned. So this is the second position. And of course, we see in the Quran there are clear evidences. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was promised paradise. The Ahlul Bayt we see in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned about them. إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Here Allah is speaking about the Ahlul Bayt and how He wishes to purify them. So this would include Ali radiallahu anhu and the rest of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And likewise in the Sunnah, the 10 who have been granted paradise from the Khulafa, and likewise other than them, Talha bin Ubaidillah, Abu Ubaidah Amir bin al-Jarrah, Sa'ad, and likewise all the other Sahaba which have been mentioned, there is specific evidence for all of them. Likewise Bilal radiallahu anhu. So this now is the second group. The second group says we will speak in general statements, and we also speak about specific people if there is evidence from the Quran and Sunnah. The third statement, the third position, which is held by some of the scholars, it is whatever is in the second position, So whatever the second group says, we speak in terms of the groups and the specific individual. Then they add something else on top of that. And they say that when we find that the people in general, they witness for a specific person, that he is a person of paradise or a person of the fire, then that can be used to make the shahada. That can be used to make the testimony that this person is in the fire or in paradise. And this is a view that you find from Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. It is also narrated by Imam Ahmad. And the evidence that they use, the evidence which is used for this, is that once the Messenger of Allah, a janazah was passing by, and when the janazah passed by, he said, wajabat, which means it has become obligatory. And then another janazah passed by, and then he said, wajabat. And in fact, what happened is that in the first janazah, the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum, they praised the janazah that was passing. And then the Messenger said, wajabat. And then the next janazah passed by, and they spoke ill of the person who went by. And so he said, wajabat. So then they asked, what has become obligatory? And so he said, that one you praised with goodness. So paradise became obligatory. And that one you praised with evil. You mentioned with evil. And so that one becomes, the fire becomes obligatory upon that one. You are the witnesses of Allah upon the earth. So using this as an evidence, the view is that anyone who becomes famous, known and established, and the large number of people, they say that this person is in paradise. So for example, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad, and many of the notable, famous scholars of Islam and the Sunnah, Ahmad, Bukhari, Muslim, and so on and so forth, then they say that this is also something which is acceptable. However, the most correct position, the most correct view is the second view, because then these ahadith can be explained. There are explanations for this hadith and other similar hadith, and the explanation revolves around the fact that this is a type of shafa'ah. It is a type of shafa'ah, intercession for the one who is deceased, and so therefore it can be explained away, and it's not to be treated like the shahada of the Quran and the Sunnah when we speak about specific individuals. So these are the three views basically. The second view is the most correct. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is the same point that we mentioned before, that when we speak of the jins or the naw', when we speak of the group, or speaking of the group, so we say, for example, the zalim is in the fire, or we say, the obedient one, al-muti', he's in paradise. And so here we can speak in these general statements, general judgments, and we are speaking here of the one who dies upon obedience, or the one who dies upon dhulm, because the whole issue is centered around what does a person die upon. Right, so you got that point, yeah? That when we are passing a judgment, it is upon what a person dies upon. Why is this? This is because in the hadith, in al-Bukhari and others, the Messenger, he said that a man he does the deeds of the people of paradise until there is between him and between paradise an arm's length. So the book overtakes him, and he does the actions of the people of the fire. And so he enters the fire. And vice versa, that a person does the deeds of the people of the fire until there is between him and it an arm's length, then the book overtakes him, and he does the actions of the people of paradise, and so therefore he enters it. So when we say that we do not testify for anyone with paradise or hellfire, it is on the basis of what he dies upon. This is because the whole of his life could be, for example, righteousness, and then he dies upon evil. And the whole of his life could be evil, then he dies upon righteousness. So when we are speaking of this principle, it is in relation to what he dies upon. That's what it is in relation to. And so this is the third principle, or the third point. The fourth point is that this goes back to something we mentioned earlier, that the one who is a righteous person, we have raja, we hope for this, this righteous person, and the one who is a sinful, disobedient person, we have khawf, we fear for that person. And this is because the people of the sunnah, they are people of rahmah, they are people of mercy, and this is because the Prophet ﷺ, he was sent as a mercy to this ummah. And so the people of the Sunnah, they inherit that mercy from the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for example, they are merciful to the righteous people. When the righteous people die, the people of ihsan, they are merciful to them because they make dua for them. They make dua to Allah to accept from them and to pardon them and to forgive them. And likewise, they are merciful to the sinful people, because when the sinful person dies upon sin, they make dua to Allah and they make istighfar for that person, they ask Allah to forgive that person, and likewise they perform the janazah upon that person. All of these are from the rights of the Muslimin. So this then is from the rahmah, from the mercy that Ahlul Sunnah have towards the sinful and the righteous people from the Muslim Ummah. So this is the fourth point that is mentioned here, the fourth point. And the fifth point is to do with the issue of the shahada. Issue of the shahada with paradise. When we say, for example, so-and-so person is a shaheed, so-and-so person is a martyr. So here, when we say so-and-so person is a martyr, it means that he has been forgiven. And there are other similar statements that people make. They might say, for example, so-and-so is a shaheed, so-and-so is marhum, so-and-so he is al-nafs al-mutma'inna, his soul is at ease. These are statements that the people say, right? And these statements as well, it is like a shahada. You are making a witness and you are testifying to something. You are saying this person is marhum. You are saying Allah has forgiven that person. You are saying this nafs is mutma'inna, mardiya. It is a soul which is at ease and Allah is pleased with that soul. You are making hukm, a judgment. So here, this type of shahada, this type of witness is something which is prohibited as well, because it is similar to saying so-and-so is in paradise. And these are similar statements that the people make. So-and-so is shaheed, so-and-so is marhum, so-and-so. These are all similar statements. In the Sahih of al-Bukhari, Imam al-Bukhari, rahmatullah, he brought a chapter heading. And this chapter heading, he said, Bab, hal yuqal fulanun shaheed. Chapter, is it to be said that so-and-so is a shaheed? Is it something permissible to be said? So this is a chapter heading. Then in the chapter heading, he brought the narration of Umar bin al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, who said, إنكم تقولون لمن مات في معارككم فلان شهيد فلان شهيد. That verily you people, you say when someone dies in your battles, you say so-and-so is shaheed and so-and-so is shaheed. And he says, Wallahu a'lam biman yuqlam fi sabilihi, Wallahu a'lam biman yuqtal fi sabilihi. Allah knows best the one who is injured, wounded in his path, and Allah knows best the one who is killed in his path. And this is because a person might fight, and he's fighting that the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is uppermost. And sometimes a person could be fighting, and he could be fighting for some other reason, some other motive. And we don't know that. This is a matter which is ghaibi. It is a matter which is unseen. And so for that reason, it is not permissible to make this shahada. Fulanun shaheed, fulanun marhum, fulanun so-and-so. All of this is, as we said, goes back to the knowledge of the unseen, which is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is prohibited. So just like we have the clear statement, so-and-so is in paradise, so-and-so is in hellfire, these are very clear statements. Then there are other similar statements that a person might make which imply the same thing. Fulanun shaheed, fulanun marhum, fulanun this, whatever. These likewise are prohibited because they take the same ruling. So this is the first part of the statement of At-Tahawi, وَلَا نُنَزِّلْ أَحَدًا مِّنْهُمْ جَنَّةً وَلَا نَارًا. And then afterwards he says, وَلَا نَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِكُفْرٍ وَلَا بِشِرْكٍ وَلَا بِنِفَاقٍ مَا لَمْ يَظْهَرْ مِنْهُمْ شَيْءٌ مِّن ذَلِكَ وَنَظَرُ سَرَائِرَهُمْ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. That we do not testify for anyone amongst them with kufr or shirk or nifaq, so long as no signs of this becomes apparent from that. And we leave their secrets to Allah the Most High. So this now is another issue, and we have a number of points on this, inshallah ta'ala. So the general principle is here that we treat people upon the zahir. We treat people upon the zahir, what we see from them outwardly. And whatever we see outwardly, we judge only upon that. As for what a person is concealing and hiding inside, we leave this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if a person, he openly brings out something which is shirk, or he brings something which is kufr, or he brings something which is from nifaq, or he brings something which is bid'ah, which is something which is innovated in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we have an apparent outward sign which we can make a testimony based upon that. However, if no signs, no apparent signs, are based upon that, then the asl is that we treat this person to be upon salama, so long as there are no signs that make us suspect, that which we see. So here there are a number of points. There are a number of points from the statement of Imam At-Tahawi. The first point that we take from this is that the people of the Qibla, those people who ascribe to Islam, the people of the Qibla, we believe that in a single person there can be iman, something of iman, and something of kufr. And there can be something of Islam, and there can be something of shirk. And there can be something of obedience, ta'ah, and ma'siyah, which is disobedience. And likewise, iman and nifaq. In other words, a single person can have these different qualities and traits and characteristics. This is the position of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. This is established from the belief of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So, for example, a person in his asl, he can be a believer. He can be a mu'min. And then he can have certain qualities and traits which are from the traits of kufr. It does not expel him from the fold of Islam, but these are traits, these are the attributes of kufr. By way of example, there are many ahadith which establish that certain actions are the actions of the kuffar. And a Muslim, he can share with the kuffar in those actions, even though those actions will not take him outside the fold of Islam. As an example of that, fighting a Muslim, qitalul Muslim, kufr. Fighting a Muslim, killing a Muslim is kufr. And likewise, as the Messenger said in hadith, that there are two things amongst the people which is disbelief. And it is speaking ill about your genealogy, reviling your ancestors, speaking ill about them. And secondly, wailing over the dead. Wailing over the dead. These are the qualities of the kuffar. And so a Muslim who falls into these qualities, then he shares with them in the qualities of kufr, even though he does not become a disbeliever. So, in other words, the asl, a person can have Islam and Iman, and he can have alongside that something of the traits of kufr. Likewise, he can have something of the traits of nifaq, of hypocrisy. When he speaks, he lies. When he speaks, he lies. When he makes a promise, he breaks his promise. When he's entrusted, he's treacherous to his trust. So all of these are from the signs and attributes of nifaq and hypocrisy. Similarly, a person, he can be guilty of shirk, a minor shirk. So for example, there are certain actions, there are certain statements he can make which would make him guilty of the minor shirk. And so from there,